Well, it's so good for all of us to be gathered at this table today. Really looking forward to Professor Ho Yu Ki sharing with us his thoughts on a vision for regaining humanity in a technologically driven world. Over to you, Professor Ho.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me this afternoon to have this conversation. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to divide the materials into three different parts. For the first part, I'm going to look at humans and the world at large, how humans basically steward the world, particularly from a Singapore context. And thereafter, I'm going to look at, on the second part, human being an economic agent, and the role of this economic agent, how it changes arising from a technologically driven world. And finally, I'm going to bring it back to the fact that humans are unique social creatures, and how the human being actually plug into this technologically driven world as a social being and social creature. But the most important of all, I hope the three segments will drive us to ask some of the big questions of life, namely, who am I? Why am I here? Is there more than just eating, working, sleeping, and breathing? Where and what next when my days on earth are over? So let me start off with the first on human and the world at large. For that matter, I would like to use the Singapore economic revolution as a starting point, as a prime example. Having gotten our independence in 1965, Singapore as a backwater entrepot trade port then has actually developed. Using US dollars today, at that point in time, our per capita income per year is only 468 US dollars. Today, Singapore, we are of $428, I mean in 1960, and today we're actually $65,000, right? So in that sense, Singapore is an example, prime example of an economic miracle. We have progressed significantly. Let us also look at another front, the medical revolution front. Back in the 60s, our lifespan was about, on average, 68 years. In 2020, we have progressed to be about 83 years. And we are probably deemed as one of the nations in the world that has the longest lifespan. And the good news is, by the time within the next 50 years, we will grow to be about 90 years. But having said that, these progresses also brings with it different challenges. The longevity of life will have to deal with the quality of life. We have to deal with the economic affordability of long retirement. And what about the strains and stresses of the economically productive adults who have to basically economically support all these who are in their retirement years? So on one hand, the medical miracle increases the longevity of life. On the other hand, it also brings new challenges. Let me also move to another area that is moving beyond Singapore. Space, a new frontier. This is what Star Trek always talks about. Indeed, it is where the world is also looking at, where we're sending space mission further and further away from Singapore with the quest of looking for another new Earth where we can live in. So this is on a global scale. Let me give you another global issue that we all have to live with. That has to deal with the technological revolution. Its growth and impact are significant because it changes our entire way of life. So let me just start it with looking at the Industrial Revolution. The first Industrial Revolution happens about 250 years ago with the invention of steam. Machine becomes possible. Then it lasts for about 100 years. And the next second Industrial Revolution came up with the electricity, right, where mass production becomes possible. And then also lasts for another 100 years. Then we have the third industrial revolution, which is the invention of computers, right? The invention of computers actually, and IT system actually opens up a brand new dimension in terms of automation, in terms of mass production, in terms of looking at an intelligent system. Interestingly, that only lasts for about 50 years. We are into the fourth industrial revolution, in which the world that we live in deal with Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, right? How decision making, the human and machine interface, and how it will impact the way we live, the way things are produced, and the way basically we conduct our life in society as a whole. Let me give you an example how fast you're talking about. I'll use the 1G to 5G, all right? 3G, which was introduced in 2001. An 800 megabyte movie will take 4 hours or more to download, right? 5G was introduced in Korea in April 2019. When 5G is rolled out, the 800 megabyte movie, which used to take 4 hours under 3G, all right, and 43 seconds under 4G, will only take 1 second under 5G. And if you take the G as a form of walking, right, that means we have to walk a lot faster. The 5G has to walk 43 times faster than 4G, and it's about 300 plus times faster than 3G. So if humans were to live in this technology world, we could be out of breath in no time. How are we to deal with this technological world here?
I'll be out of breath at 3G already.
I think so too. So we do not understand the phenomenal rate that we are living, how the world changes. Of course, on the social dimension, there's also very interesting changes that's taking place. We have a sexual revolution, right? In the world that we live in, we used to be very clear there's only male and female, man or woman. But in today's world, unfortunately, that is changing. Right? I use an example of a recent research survey that was conducted on gender studies as it is. In the questionnaire, they asked the people to identify their sexuality. And the boxes that they gave them were male, female, trans female, gender queer, or different identity. You tell me who you are as it is. And the next question below was, what was your sex assigned at birth in the original birth certificate? So we enter into almost like a twilight zone. Not only changes in terms of the technological world, but also the social world that we live in. In the world that we live into with the technological changes, it also brings with us unprecedented challenges. For example, the unprecedented challenges in terms of the water crisis. Research has shown that vast forests will be turned into deserts if we do not know how to cultivate and conserve the water that we have. Another dimension that we have is that we became a victim of our own successes in terms of progresses. Climate change is something that we cannot deal with as it is, right? Cities, prosperous cities are underwater. The 100-year storm, which is correct because the last major storm was 100 years ago, but this 100-year storm will become shorter and shorter. And the impact is going to be higher and higher, right? Or bigger and bigger over time. The temperature soaring. So in a certain extent, humans are both makers and destroyers. Humans are both benefactors. And they are also valiants as it is. In the sense that this is where we as humankind and the world that we live in constantly keep changing. And here are some of the big questions in this changing world that we need to deal with. What is humankind ultimately looking for? Where are all these progresses bringing us now? Is it going to bring us to a destruction of the world? Or are we going to bring us to a better life? But what does this better life mean, Better life, does it mean that we can download the movie in 1 second? Better life, does it mean that we can behave whatever we want? Better life, does it mean that we have abundance of food? Or better life means that I only care for myself, the rest, who cares? And we ask the parallel question, what are the end goals of all these progresses, individually and collectively? So this is what I like to do as a first segment, to introduce the context in which we're going to examine the next segment concerning the technologically driven world. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's quite interesting that you were talking about, we are both makers and destroyers and about climate change and all. It was just, I think, yesterday I was listening to CNA and they made a comment, the silver lining of COVID-19 that we're going through now is that pollution has drastically dropped in some areas.
That's right.
Because of less human activity, the air quality has improved and all. So it shows really a direct, a human cause and a human reason for air pollution, even for haze that we sometimes get. So which makes me wonder if we are going to double up or triple up or even quadruple up our speed of progress. We can be potentially very destructive even to our natural environment. and the speed at which we can move information and move things, with machine learning, AI and all. So it's quite uncharted territory, and it seems you need, firm hands on the rudders and good brains behind, whoever is steering this to make sure we move into a region where all sorts of humans will thrive, and not as if just only small segments of people will thrive.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on top of that as well, as you shared, I was reflecting on technology, right? With technology, things are faster, more efficient. But the sad thing is that when you talk to people today, they say, how are you? You expect that with that you have more time.
Yes.
But people are getting busier, and the answer is I don't have time. It's it doesn't equate to what you expected it to be.
The relations that I expect, yeah. Sorry.
There's also, you talk about Singapore's history. Whilst we have made a lot of progress, I think core of our culture has always been community and social cohesion. And with all the technological advances, you find that we are more and more individualistic because we can do so much more on our own. We can hide from everybody else and still be, surrounded by things that will excite us and entertain us. And where is this going? Taken to its extreme form, then where will Singapore as a society? How will this social cohesion or breaking of that cohesion be affecting us in the future?
So I think these are very good questions, and that's why in this changing world where things are happening positively or negatively, I think we as human beings must step back and ask the big questions, where are all these things bringing us to? And more important, why am I here? What is the end goal for me? You see? Life must be more than this, right? In that sense of development, or hurrying from one place to another, or enjoying the good life, or worrying about missing out on the good life, or even struggling to make ends meet. Right?